Hi, YouTube. Okay,
Hi,
now we're gonna press record in
Okay.
3, 2
Then.
on GarageBand. Ready? And 3, 2, 1, record. Let me get my
Okay.
Zoom up. And 1, 2, 3.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Claudia and B podcast.
Hello.
We're so excited to have you guys.
Yay!
Okay.
Episode 5. Oh my gosh.
We are coming along.
We are on one hand. All in one hand.
Guys, we did it. We did it. I mean, not yet because we haven't actually started posting these, but we have recorded this much, and that's farther than I get in most creative projects that I dream of.
I know. I know. Seriously. For real. Yeah, we're doing
I'm
good.
really proud of us.
I am too.
So, I mean, truth be told, we already recorded one podcast tonight, but we're doubling up because we're both working girls and we're busy. So I was about to be like, Claudia, what's new? And then I'm like, that could be a little funny, but what is new?
Well, so this coming week, I know that it'll be in January by the time this is posted, but this is like the final week of my, after Friday. So the next week is the final week of my school. So Monday, my students were doing like their Christmas program, and they're all cute and excited. And so that'll be fun. We're doing like a gospel Christmas program. So it's like,
Fun.
Jesus, oh, what a wonderful child. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, question. Do you get depressed in the new year? Like, how I've just heard people talk about how like you have the holidays and the excitement of New Year's and all this stuff, and then it's January and it's like, but now what? Do you get like the New Year blues?
Well, I get the putting away my Christmas decorations blues.
Yeah,
because I'm like, it's like stripping your house of joy.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. I know. I don't like how dark it is when you take away all the twinkle lights. That's kind of sad.
I know. It is sad because I love decorating for Christmas. So I try to keep it up for as long as I can. But do you get the New Year blues?
Not usually. I think it's easy to kind of feel depressed around New Year's. And it's just like, especially in Washington, it's so gray and it kind of gets rough. February is the worst because it's like February, we always get this huge fog that rolls in and it's just awful. So I always like focus on new decorations. So for New Year's, I just keep like all the sparkly decorations, and I'll take like the red and green out, but I'll just keep all the twinkle lights and switch it.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a lot of like sparkly
really like
lights hanging up in my apartment just for as normal decoration.
Oh, I love it. And then I also, a couple years ago, I started doing, I would always get so stressed with New Year's resolutions. And then I would get like so mad at myself when I wasn't perfect at them. So I started doing this thing that in January, I take the whole month of January to decide on and to set up all my New Year's resolutions. And that's actually helped me a lot because it's like this extra little hobby that I focus on. And
well, and because then that's good, because then for December, I mean, there's so much going on that you just kind of have to, like, I can't.
Yeah, I would never set them. And then it'd be New Year's and I'm like, well, I didn't set any resolutions. So I guess I'm not progressing.
No, but that's really smart. That is.
Thanks. Yeah, I like it. It's really made a difference for me. So that helps. And then I get like really Twitter-pated excited over Valentine's Day. So I feel like it just kind of moves, the New Year moves for me,
I know, I do too. I know. Valentine's Day is fun because I just love the pink. I love the pink.
Yeah, like everything's pink and white and red, and it's just cutesy stuff. And the Target section, the dollar section at Target is always the best. It's just
it is fun. It is fun. Yeah. I just try and focus on that. But the thing is that what I love about Florida is that February is so glorious here.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So I know that we talked about visiting each other, which is crazy. I can't, like, the first time that we meet in person is going to be crazy.
It'll be like when you meet somebody on a dating app and then you see them in real life and you're like, oh, that's what you like? That's what it's going to be like. But I'll come in February. That sounds like a great time.
Exactly. And then I'll visit you in like July and August when it's like so sticky and gross here. Yeah.
Oh, it's good here. It's right before we get the wildfires. It's nice and sunny. All the lakes are perfect. Oh.
It's so nice. So nice there. I love it. So much fun. And we can go to Green Bluff, which is like my fave. I love Green Bluff.
I love Green Buff too. I'm so glad you know.
Today's topic is a little serious.
It is, but I'm kind of excited for it. But also I am kind of one of those people that I really love. I love deep, intense conversations with people.
I do too. Yeah, for sure.
So I was excited for this. So we decided that we're going to do lessons learned. We're going to share a couple of like life lessons that we've gone through and has taught us something really valuable that's helped us move forward in life. So do you want to go first, or we didn't discuss who should go first?
I don't know. Yeah.
I'll go first with one of them if you want.
Let's just do one of them, and then I'll go, and then
I like that idea. Okay. So once upon a time, I don't know how to tell this. I'll just tell like the story and then like talk about the situation, I guess. So when I was around 22, I guess. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, these two stories lead into each other. So
perfect.
So I was raised in a very religious family. My family is there's so many names for it. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of the official name. People know that as Mormon or LDS as well. And there's a whole culture that goes with that religion. It's a very involved religion. So typically, if you're a member of that church, you go to church every week, which growing up, it was a 3-hour block. You would have like a sacrament meeting, you would have Sunday school and different things like that. It was a chunk of time. And then there's like youth group that you are involved in when you get older and all these different things. So I was just so involved in this religion growing up, and I really loved it. It was it just was like a lot of my personality and a lot of the dynamic in my family. So I just always knew I would be a part of that. And I still am. I have so much love and faith and respect for this religion. But I experienced a crisis of my faith. And it's so funny looking at it now, because Satan gets you. He knows how to just completely take away all of your confidence.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Constantly throughout the day. Constantly.
It's so hard. And the funny thing is, what really triggered it was there were a lot of trials and issues going on with my family. And I was like just kind of part of it for everyone. Like I was a sounding board for people. They would talk to me about things. And my parents' relationship started getting really complicated and negative. And it was kind of rocky for a while. And I didn't really think that they were going to stay together. And that really shook me a lot.
Yeah.
And I felt so angry. And like what really pushed me away from like stopping praying and stopping reading scriptures and all this stuff that is like a foundation. Like you can't really keep faith if you're not doing those two things actively. But I got so mad because I saw all my family like going through struggles, and I was going through struggles because of that, because I would like take on their responsibility and stuff like that. And I remember one night I was just like, you know what? Like, screw it. I'm not going to do what God wants me to do anymore, because I've been doing what he wants me to do my whole life. And I just keep getting trials, and I keep getting like issues thrown at me and things that I can't handle. And like, why is that fair? That's not fair. That's not what a kind God would do to me, kind of thing like that. And I really let go of behaving like a Christian and like a person who believes and follows God, and that lasted for about a year in my life, that I was really, really lost and just like not involved in church activities. A lot of my friends were still going to church, and they would really encourage me, and I would be like, okay, I'll kind of go with you and stuff like that. And like, I don't know, I really learned how the identity that I had built for myself wasn't necessarily the actual identity of a follower of God. You know what I mean? Like I had kind of built up this idea in my head that if you're a good person, then good things will happen to you. And I realized, somebody described it to me later, and I loved the description. I really like resonated with it and thought that it was important for people to kind of understand, because I knew that was a mistake I had made. But they said that the gospel is a foundation. It's not an umbrella. But I had been using it as an umbrella. Like I was like, God, if I follow you, then you'll protect me from the rain, right? Mm-hmm. And God was like, no, if you follow me, you'll have a foundation that you can stand in the storm.
Oh my gosh, that is really powerful.
Isn't that good? It just changed my perspective so much. Mm-hmm. And so I realized like a lot of the things that I did because I was a good girl, because I was a little Mormon girl that was going to be good and all this stuff. Like I wasn't doing it because I actually had a testimony of doing it. It was because I was like, well, I do believe there's a God and God wants us to do this, so I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, do I have a relationship with God, and do I really trust him, and am I actually going to follow him because I want to follow him, or just because I don't want to get in trouble? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and it's true. That thirst for wanting to follow him, like, definitely needs to be there. I mean, yeah,
because I just think it's like the intention, you know, like you, I don't know, like you could want to follow, but why do you want to follow? And to me, ultimately, when it came down to it, when I was experiencing trials and hardship, the reason that I wanted to follow him so that I wouldn't get in trouble wasn't enough, you know. Like I had to kind of reevaluate and be like, okay, do I want to actually follow him because I genuinely have a connection to my Savior, because I really believe in his teachings and in the gospel and in the idea of like doing my best so I can live with him again, you know, stuff like that. And like I was getting like super into doctrine, which I'm fine talking about. I know not everyone's into that, but like I don't know, it just like I think our intention behind why we do something really will help us know if we're going to be consistent with it over time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the same thing. You could compare that to if you say you want to get in, you know, better shape. Is your intention because you just want to look hot, or is your intention because you want to live longer and want to live a balanced, happy, healthy life? You know, because my intention with wanting to be healthy is honestly like more of for my mental health than my physical. 1,000, you know, 100%. Like,
oh yeah. And I mean, that's such a good comparison, because it's like one that we can all relate to, you know, like I remember dieting and being like, oh, I'm supposed to have a hot body, so I won't eat this, versus when I diet being like, I can feel how my body is happier and healthier, and I am stronger when I do this. So that's my motivation, you know. It doesn't matter if I actually lose weight, I'll feel so much better, you know?
Well, and that's the same, like, especially with keeping my relationship with God, you know, active and resonating. I mean, my life is just so much smoother. I'm so much calmer. I'm so much more at peace. And that is like my motivation for that. I make a lot better decisions.
Yes.
You know?
Me too.
But yeah. Well, and it's funny, I mean, because a lot of the things that I have been praying for this past year, I mean, came true. And and like specific things. I mean, like this job that I have, like teaching kids at this private elementary school, I said, God, I would love to have an opportunity to teach theater to elementary school kids at a school that is specifically Christian. And then it happened.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that God really will give us what we want. But like, if we're not specific, you know.
Well, yeah,
like
specific, but also it's, of course, like when you're a kid and you're like, oh, really? Okay, well, God, I want a cat in my stocking. You know, I remember being so mad that I didn't get a kitty, like, you know, but I think it's if you like, if you want something, but how do I say this? It's, I don't know. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? I
think so. I think sometimes God is waiting for us to be ready for the blessings that he's been wanting to give us the whole time.
Yeah, and exactly.
Like when we actually, like, you actually knew what you were looking for and what you needed, and you asked for that, and it probably made it easier for you to recognize it because you had been asking for it.
Exactly. You know? Well, and leading up to it, the jobs that I had and the preparation I had, it led up to be perfect. So it was like the perfect timing too. you know, because I had wanted this for a while, but he was like, not yet, not yet, not yet. You're not ready for it yet. And then, and then it happened.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I will say, I like really am so thankful for the crisis of faith that I went through, because I think that has kept me more faithful than anything else that I've experienced. But I do remember just like how lost I was. And I was talking to my sister-in-law at one point, and she was like, Bethany, you're not yourself. Like, you're not acting like yourself. And I was like, here's the thing though. Like, and she did know, she knew that like a lot of the trials that I had and like the behavior, how I was like, all of a sudden I had always been raised not to drink. And then I decided I was going to go and drink and like party and all this stuff. And like, it was super hard because it felt very alienating from my family, because that's not how we behave. And how was I going to tell my parents that that's what I was doing now, you know, all this stuff. And so I felt like super alone going through it. And then my sister-in-law was talking to me, and she's like, you're not yourself. Like, this isn't you. And I was like, I'm really scared that it is though, because if this is really me and I just didn't know it because I never acted that way, I can't go back now, but that means I'm going to be like so distant from my family. And like, that's so scary, you know? And she was like, it's not you. Like, it's not. And I later realized how that behavior changed my personality. And so that was her being like, you're not being yourself. Like, whatever action you might be taking right now, like we can deal with that, but you're not being yourself. And it took me a while to like recognize that, you know? But I just remember how clear it was, like the doubt that was in my head of like, oh, your whole life you've been oppressed and you never knew that you were really this person, and you can't get away from this now. This is you. And it's funny now thinking about it, because it's like, what person was I? Like, I was selfish. I was like unhappy. I wasn't productive. Like, that's who I was. No, that's not who I was, but that's like the deception that was fed to me. And it was enough to keep me from really trying to change and like go back and take my heart to the Lord again and be like, okay, I'm yours, even though I'm not perfect, which I was never supposed to be perfect, but I thought I was supposed to be perfect, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get yourself to that standard of what you thought was the perfect person.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Christians, no matter what denomination you are, kind of struggle with the idea of perfection versus being able to take our imperfections to the Lord and have him fix them. Because, you know, it's like the idea of like follow after Christ and be perfect like him. But we're only ever supposed to like lean on his perfection, you know?
Exactly. Well, and I don't know, it's hard because I think that the church definitely could use some help in talking to teenagers when you're at that crucial age of all of these hormones are raging and you're just so like full of, even early 20s too, because you're on your own, like most kids probably for the first time. You're making a lot of decisions that you don't realize could be super detrimental to the future. But in explaining, like what I would have loved to have had as a teenager is explaining to me why the Bible says what it does and why it's important, instead of just telling us what to do. Be like, okay, but why is that important? You know what I mean?
Oh, I 100% agree. I think that changes how you behave completely.
Well, and I'm still on a journey of like, I question everything. And so I'm still learning every day about why why it is the way it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just, but for sure, I think that it would be really beneficial for the church to explain things in a more and like a non-BS way.
Yeah.
And be honest, like instead of all this sugarcoating crap, you know, it's like, no, like let's be real. Let's be honest. Like tell me what mistakes you made, and then that way, you know, and then way
100%. And like even with my parents, like I have over the years found out like my mom had such a hard life, and from that made like all these decisions that she regretted later. But I wish that she didn't have fear of letting us down or fear of judgment, so that she could talk to us about those things more when we were like making our own decisions. Because if I had known a lot of the things she had gone through, I think that would have changed a lot of the trials that I went through, you know?
For sure.
But yeah, and I think really like learning the difference between perfection and like, we're supposed to use Christ's atonement, you know, like literally God created this plan for us and sent us to earth and was like, hey, mess up, like screw up, do things wrong, but just
and
choose
question
me in the
everything.
end.
Like that's okay to question things. It's okay to wonder why. And you know, it's okay. I love hearing different people from different religions and why they believe what they believe. And I think it's really fascinating and interesting. And I love, I don't know, I just love hearing people's different perspectives. I think it's really, really
I think
powerful.
Faith supports all faith, you know.
And even people that don't believe in anything, and I still like to hear why, and I still like to understand.
I agree completely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess for me, my life lesson, I would have to say is kind of goes along and piggybacks with like the questioning of faith, but I feel a lot of girls can relate to this, where you plan out your life, where, you know, you're in middle school and high school and, you know, you're like, all right, cool. So I'm going to get married when I'm 24, 23. I'm going to have my first baby at 26. You know, I'm going to have baby, whatever, at this age. And then I'm going to start this business and then I'm going to be blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. I totally did that.
I totally agree.
Totally did that. My plan was to get married around 23, 24, had my first kid at 26. And my plan was to be a performer in Orlando, and raise a family at the same time. That's one of the draws that really drew me to Orlando, was that the fact that one of the few places I feel, of course they do it in other places, but that you can do that where it's not like scary New York City. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like Florida's still a little bit more of the quote unquote normalcy of, you know, like you drive a car to work, you have a house, like you know what I mean? Where, and then they have like a school system where it's not, you know, it's not always riding the subway. It's more of like the life that I grew up with. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my plan, because ever since I found out that, you know, Disney hired, like ever since I found out, oh, that's not actually Sleeping Beauty, that's a person, I was like, okay, I have to be her, you know?
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally we at church camp, I remember, there was a day where we had to dress up like who we wanted to be when we grew up. And so I dressed up as Aurora, because I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, you know?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it is cute. So anyway, so college comes, you know, I have to be very careful like with how I talk about this, because like, you know, he is a good person, and, you know, I don't want to, I think I'll do a good job, because I've talked about it so much about not like hate talking someone, you know what I mean? Like it's like just
blame.
Yeah, not blaming blame. There's no blame. It's just the things that happened, right? So my mom always joked with me about how she wanted me to wear all pink and stand in front of the engineering building to get an engineer. She was like, you need an engineer, Claudia, you know, because, you know, they're good at math and fixing things, which are things I am not.
Evens you out.
Yeah, exactly. So I go on this dating app. I meet this guy. We go on a date. You know, it ends up being really great. He's really nice. He's like stable. We hit things off. It's honestly my first actual like long-term relationship. I had never had a long-term boyfriend before then. It was it was when I was 20. I think I was 21. Yeah, I was 21. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like my mom helped me get ready for the date. Like it was like really exciting, you know, and because I was like, Mom, I have a date with a mechanical engineer. And she was like, oh, you know, so excited about it. And so
it's what I've dreamed for you.
I know, exactly. So anyway, we meet, we go, so we start dating, and we date, all the way. So let's see, 2012, I graduated 2013 in May. I said, I'm like, all right, this is my plan. I'm moving to Orlando. I want to perform. So moved to Orlando in 2013. It happened to work out that he was able to get a, he worked for an Air Force base. So what happened was they had a contract. He signed a contract before he met me that he would do, I'm trying to think. He would work, he was an intern there. So they would pay for his grad school with the salary on top of it if he promised to come back and work 2 years after he graduated.
Oh,
so in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I mean, there's several life lessons in this story. So just let you all know. Anyway, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm not going back to the place I went to college in. Because my parents had already moved on from that town. Like we lived there when I went to middle school and high school. They moved when I was, I think, a junior in college. They moved to Texas. So I already was like done with the town. I was done. I was like, no, I'm not moving back there. Like, so, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can get him to change his contract. So, I mean, that was a constant conversation with us was, please change your contract. Like, come on. Like, and he was like, I can't, and I just was like, I put it in the back of my head. I'm like, you know what? He'll change it. We'll change it. We'll figure it out. Cause I'm not moving back. I can't, So, anyway, so I started to get suspicious cause I was waiting for, I was like, is he going to propose? Like, what's going on? Like, we already went ring shopping, and I was getting suspicious because I was like, this is taking a while. And so I started to get like really like antsy because I was like, oh my gosh, if he proposes to me, like I'll have to move away from this foundation I've started in Orlando. Like this is where I want to be, And when I moved to Orlando and I actually wasn't doing, when I first moved here, I did the college program at Disney, and then I did, and then I got a part-time job at Disney, and then I worked at a hotel. So I wasn't actually like doing a lot of performing at the time, but I was just getting started. Like I got cast at Universal for Halloween Horror Nights. I started to get to know people there. I started doing princess parties like crazy. So I started to get to know the people there. I was starting to like spread my, finally starting to get the ball rolling of like, okay, cool. I'm like getting there, I'm getting to this position. I would go to auditions all the time. Anyway, so I just was like, I can't move back. And then so I just started to get antsy. And then I remember this guy started giving me attention, and I just was like, well, I can't, I don't want to move. I kept thinking that, made some mistakes. And anyway, and then he proposed, and I was like, are you effing kidding me? Is what I said. No. And I feel horrible. Like that's not fair to him at all. Yeah. But I said, are you effing kidding me? Because I was like, I can't move back. I can't. I went to college there. I'm done with there. Nothing wrong with that place, but I moved on. Like I can't move back. That's embarrassing. Like, no, like I don't have family there. There's no reason for me to move back. But I said yes, like yes, because he was like, are you going to say yes? Yeah. It's like, yes. And like stupid. I mean, what I wish would have happened, should have been like, hey, I can't move away from here. If this is going to work, we need to be, live separate. But I mean, I had
like
already
ask for what you needed instead of like the typical what you do in that situation.
And I already had made a mistake. I've already slipped up because I was getting such anxiety about moving away, and then I got attention from another guy. So I was like, well, anyway, I'm
Did your fiance know about that, or was that
not until way later?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard. That probably made you feel like super crappy and like confused more because you didn't know how to adjust the situation.
I know. Yeah, I needed therapy bad. So It was awful. But then I also had this other side of it where my family just adored him. And that oh, like, he's such a great person for you, blah, 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 blah. So it was just really hard because I wanted to please my family and I wanted to do the right thing. Because on paper, everything seemed perfect, except I will say something that's super important to me is having a foundation of faith. And I will say that wasn't something that was like, you know, not that I'm not
on the same page.
I know. And I'm worried about sounding like I'm, you know, talking bad, but it just wasn't, it wasn't as strong as I think a person like me would need, you know? You know what I mean?
You weren't equally yoked with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's hard because I felt like that I was always doing the, like, hey, let's go to church. Hey, let's do this, you know? And that's hard. That's hard because it's like, because I want a guy to be like, yo, we're going to church, meet there at 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and there can be a little bit of back and forth too, of me being like, no, like, I'm gonna, like, hey, okay, I'll go back and forth with it, be like, hey, I'll meet you here at that, you know, but it's just like, that is just so important to me of that, I don't know, of that being a priority, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We can, like,
and I think that's a valid
other.
need. Like, that's,
yeah.
And I think you have a really good point. Like, I think sometimes the expectations we've put on ourselves for how our life is going to go or what we're going to do, it like blinds us to the reality that we're in, that you know, like, you have so many options in life at any given moment, but if you're like stuck on a certain track in your head of, this is how I have to do it, or this is what I need to do, this is the expectation, blah, 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 I think that limits us, and we just don't recognize the avenues of options that we have. And I think, like, I could totally understand where you're coming from with that, of being like, well, I have to do this, but I have to please everyone too. And really, it was just like, neither really happened, you know?
Exactly.
Well, you're trying to make everything happen.
There's a really good book called Why Smart Women Settle, and it's a lot of
I've wanted to read that.
It's good, girl. I like sped through it. I loved it. I wish I had that when I was 22. Like, it's because it's a lot of women are scared that they're not going to be able to, they're not going to have kids, they're not going to have a family, and so they they're like, oh, it's fine, I'll change him. Like the contract thing. I was like, oh, it's fine, we can get out of that contract, I'll change it, we'll change it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I had this like feeling, and it sounds silly because it's a feeling, but I had this pull to Orlando knowing that I needed to be there. So ripping away from that, I mean, I was just bawling my eyes out when I had to move. It was bad. I was like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. And here I am, like, so horrible. I feel so bad for him, but here I am. I should be so like thrilled to be getting married, starting a life. And I was not.
Aww,
you know, hard. I was just like, and that's so not fair. And I feel so bad for that. And so, so basically the life story is just to not plan your life. And then basically what happened was we were married for 2 years. I was just completely, it was almost like a midlife crisis in my 20s, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not where I want to be. I can't really like, the opportunities in Orlando are so different from the ones here. It's like, I was doing theater, as much theater as I could. I drove to Texas, and I stayed with my parents as much as I could, because that was like a really nice like escape. And I did theater in Texas. I was just trying to like make it work as much as I could, because my thing is like, I have a degree in music theater. Like, I want to be performing, but there's not really like a performer job here during the day that I could do. Like, I mean, there probably was, but I probably just was so like, just like, I just didn't see, you know,
because you knew it wasn't right.
You have to get creative with stuff like that, you know, and I was just so anyway, I started doing theater, made more mistakes, if you know what I mean.
I get you.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the other thing too, is our love languages were not the same. So my love language is physical touch. Like, I love and that's something we should talk about, the 5 love languages. I love.
Yeah, for sure.
Like ever since I was a kid, like always hugging, cuddling, all of that, like, constantly. So like when I lived with my family, there's a lot of us. So I could like, if they're tired of me hugging them, I just go to the next person, but with him, he was like so overwhelmed with it. And he was just like, oh my gosh, like, please just go hug the cat, Well, that's another story is like my cat, she found us in that house. And that was like, she just showed
when
up.
You needed her. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it was sweet. That's a sweet story of how we got her too. Cause the family that like, she would come in and out of their house all the time. And then she kept on coming over to us. And so I would let her in, of course, and I was like, I just love this cat so much. And, someone put a collar on her that said, do not bring in house. And I was just devastated. And so I put a tag on her that said, if this is your kitty, call me. And then like this little kid called and I said, okay, well, we love her. We just want to make sure she has a good home. And I think we're going to adopt a cat because we're just obsessed. And he was like, you can just have her. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's so funny. If this is your kitty, call me.
I know. And
that's
so
funny.
We called her Kitty. And I said, well, that's just going to be her name because they called her Puss. And so I was like, we're not.
Yeah, you chose a better one.
So Kitty is like the same thing. And then also Kitty Bennett, Pride and Prejudice, like Kitty Bennett.
Oh, that's so perfect. I love
Kitty
that.
Bennett Fane. Yeah, that's her name. So, yeah. So, but then.
I like that.
Yeah. So then let's see. I mean, we'd been married 2 years. I was just boiling with like anxiety and just complete, like, this is not right. Being like, we need to go to counseling. And then that's when it all fell apart. And which I totally respect his decision, just saying, this is not what, this isn't going to work for me. I mean, cause totally understand. I mean,
yeah. And everyone has their limit, on like what they can handle and like where they'll go with a relationship.
Yeah. Well, and my mom said something really important to me. She was like, well, you are married, you are in a contract. So I think you need to do as much work as you can to try and make it work. And I said, you're right. I'm in a contract. I mean, if you're looking at the facts, that's a contract. So I said, I am willing to work this out with you. But I can't do it without counseling. We have to go to counseling. Yeah. And he couldn't handle, I mean, I totally understandable. I mean, and
I think you're right. I think at that point, counseling was needed for both of you to have like a outside perspective and a mediator to kind of be like, okay, we're going to regroup.
And we both realized like a lot of things from our childhood really did affect how we acted. Cause it's not like things that I was doing, I was acting out, doing all sorts of stuff, crazy stuff. And he was, acting out in his own way of just like, it was like almost like just several things of like him not wanting to touch me that were not normal, that normally it's like normal for a person to not, even someone that isn't that affectionate. It's still little things, like holding hands in the car, and only cuddling for a certain amount of time.
That makes a big difference. Like, especially because, I mean, I think in a relationship anyway, like that makes a difference. But I think when it is like a love language, like a love language is a need. It's not just a want in a relationship. And so having a need that isn't getting met, I think just throws everything off. And then like probably cause like some acting out or some funny behavior on your side because you're like, I'm not getting this need met, and it's just so hard. So
it is hard.
Yeah. Thanks for telling me about that. That's a really sweet story to share.
Sweet or sad? Is it like so sad? Well, that basically
it is, but like that is such an important realization to have about yourself and to see like why you behaved that way, and to go to therapy. Like I am so grateful for the crazy things in my life that sent me to a therapist's office because oh my gosh, I have issues and I didn't realize how many I had, but it's like I was too prideful. I needed something to really like put me in a position where I had to go to therapy. And from there I realized the blessing of it and have continued on.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
I don't think I would have gone.
Like I mean I kind of yeah, so after, you know, the divorce and everything, I fell right into another relationship, and, you know, that was a whole handful in itself.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I wanted to run to something, not away from something. So I thought I'm going to stay put for a little bit longer. Here's somebody that's giving me a ton of affection that I've been craving for so long. So, but
yeah. I mean, that makes sense in a healing process, even though we look back on those moments and we're like, why?
I know,
you know?
I know. It's so hard.
Yeah.
But then I thought and then after that, I was like, I still want to move to Orlando. And so I was like, I need to like make this decision, and I can't base it off of a relationship. I need to do this for myself, and great. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so I moved. It didn't work out, you know, but I moved, and I'm finally at a place since, I would say, probably like this February. Like I moved here, and then I was kind of still going through like that acting out phase a little bit, you know, just like, like, you know, except I acted out with eating, and I gained a lot of weight, and like, I was like, but now I'm finally feel like I have my own place now, which was one of my goals. I got it. And thanks to a lot of help from my family, you know, supportive family, which I'm like, through all of these past 5 years, like, I am so thankful to have the support I have from my family. Like
I'm sure.
like, yeah, all of the forgiveness, all of that. I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy and wild what happened there, you know? So
that's so cool. I mean, talk about a good foundation of having somebody that you can go back to that will still love you and accept you, you know?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I contribute, you know, I want to, if I ever do get married again, I really need that faith backbone, because I like to look at my parents and see their relationship and the backbone that it has, and also the backbone of having the family. And I don't know, it's just, yeah, there are things that have lasting power. I've learned just from observing relationships that have been together for a long time that are faith-based. You know, there's backbone things that really are important.
Oh yeah. And I think, I don't know. I think having a shared belief gives staying power. That's just like an extra help when you need it, you know, because you have like this dream and this vision together that you're creating.
Yeah.
I think so. And sometimes you can mistake that, which is my experience.
Oh no.
So the other experience I wanted to share is it's like such a simple story that so many people go through. I started dating this guy, and I met him when I was really like turning to God again and really getting my life in order. And I had like a lot of insecurity about my lack of faith that I had just experienced. And so I was kind of like trying to be like, okay, like I'm still a good person. I'm a good person. It's okay. You like forgiveness. Like I can move forward in life, you know? But it was a little hard. And this is one thing that I do have a hard time with the culture of my church, that sometimes the idea of forgiveness and being made whole is forgotten. And for me, like, I was like, oh, I'm not like this pure little Mormon girl anymore, but I'm still a good person. And so in dating, I was really insecure, being like, are they going to think I'm a bad person because I've had experiences that you're not supposed to have, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like a little timid in dating, but I met him. I was living in Provo, Utah at the time. And that's a college town. There's 2 big colleges there. And so there's just so many dateable humans in that town. You just date. Everyone's dating. It's like a sport there. Like everyone's dating. Everyone's trying to find somebody to get married to. And in a lot of ways, I think it's so cool because so many people do find a person to marry and to start a family with. But then there's like that expectation that can sometimes be hard. So I met this guy, my ex, and we ended up dating for nearly 2 years, which for me is a long time. And in Mormon culture, that's a long time to date without getting married. Yeah. And here's the funny thing, like, spoiler alert, we didn't get married, we broke up. But even now, like years, I'm surprised I'm not married. even years later, I look at that relationship really fondly now because I've done a lot of healing on it. And I think about us and I'm like, you know, I do think that we could have made it work. And I actually think we would still be a really good team. But the choices we made in the relationship kind of made it like impossible for us to move forward together.
Yeah, see, that is a really good, you know, and that's actually would be a really good movie, is if you took like a couple, you know, and you like did like one version of the movie where they made certain choices and then didn't end up together, and then one version of the movie where you made certain choices and did. That would be a good movie.
Totally.
Movie pitch.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna make it.
Starring us.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I know. Well, it'll be like two different. Yeah, that'd be great.
The two couples.
Yeah.
So, okay, and here's the thing too that I hadn't learned yet, like a lot about mental health and mental illnesses, and he experienced some of that, and I didn't recognize the behavior for a long time. Like it was very funny, and I think, I don't know like specifically what he got diagnosed with after we broke up, and I really encouraged him to start going to counseling when we were together, because I was like, I think there's something weird happening. Like I think the issues that we have going on aren't like normal behavior. I think there's something else, you know. But he would like get on this track, and again, I'm not saying this as a judgment. Like I actually respect him a lot and really hope that he is so healthy and happy in his life. But between us, he had like two Bethanies in his head. Like he would get in this mindset where I was this amazing, wonderful, just absolutely perfect person, and he just idolized me and was in awe of me. And then he had this other side of me that he would be like, why would you do that? Like I was conniving and I was manipulative and I was dirty because I was not perfect, you know? And for
dirty
me,
as in dirty, or dirty as in like clothes everywhere?
Dirty as in like dirty. because like for me, and I have no issues saying this, like I had been a little promiscuous when I decided to not follow God, you know? Because like, sure. Why would you be chaste if you're angry at God? So he really had an issue with that, like a really big problem. And I get why, and that's his own issue, you know, but it's not accurate to what I was. But he would like treat me between those two versions of who I was. So I was either like just so on cloud 9 in this relationship, or I was like, why are you treating me this way? Like, you really think that about me? Like, why would you say that, you know? And it kind of got to the point where I started to like become more strong in myself. And so I would stand up more and kind of be like, you know, I don't think we need to talk about these things anymore. Like he a lot of the time would come to me and be like, could you just explain to me like why you did this in your past? Like, could you just help me understand why you would do this? And I'd be like, okay, I mean, I guess I want you to understand me, so I'll talk about it. And then after a while, I was like, no, we've talked about this. I don't need to go back there. You don't need to go back there. Like, we're not going to talk about this anymore. We're moving on. That's not even who I am anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And he was stuck on thought patterns about that. And I realized like I would always hold on to the highs in our relationship. Like I'd be like,
that's what
really
you
tough right now. Do. I know, it's so hard. I would be like, we're so good together. Things are so great. We have like this amazing, beautiful future. He was an artist, and I loved how he saw life and how he like was so creative and colorful and all these things. And I would just like think of the good, and then I would forget like that wasn't 100% of the time, you know? Yeah. And I eventually got to the point where I was like, you know, the potential that we have together is real and amazing, but that's not the reality that's happening here. And the highs are getting farther between and the lows are getting more prominent. And I can't make a decision on my future to stay with him if this is how it is. If we're always going up and down like this, I don't want that. That's not good, you know?
Yeah.
And it took a couple of times of him being kind of like judgmental and mean to me before I was like, you're not supposed to treat me like this. Like, you're supposed to be my cheerleader that just supports me through everything, you know?
Yeah.
And we made this decision that I was like, okay, I think we need to break up. And I was kind of like, if we can work things out and you can get some help so that you're not treating me this way, like, I would take you back. Like, I love you and I want our future and all this stuff. And he said this thing when we were breaking up that he was like, I knew I was going to do something to push you away. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Like, why would you say it? Yeah, it's like, yeah. Ugh,
yeah, it was so hurtful.
Sounds like I was a lot of work that he needs to do on himself, you know?
Yeah. But it was like so painful, but really, really good for me to learn, because I remember we broke up and there was like 2 weeks of us not talking or seeing each other before we like started talking again. And in those 2 weeks, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been going through like some really tough things. Like, I've been experiencing like emotional abuse without realizing it, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I went through the same thing with some of my exes too. Yeah.
And you don't see it until you get out of the situation.
No, and your friends are telling you all of it, and you're just like, I'm just confused. And, you know, it's crazy is that I, in one of my relationships, I had thought, I was like, I remember thinking, I feel like I need to start recording our conversations because I am just so confused on why he's mad and like what he's mad about, because I don't remember what the heck happened. And then I was researching this psychologist or on YouTube or whatever, listening to her. And she goes, if you feel like you are having to start recording your conversations, you're most likely dealing with a narcissist. And my mouth just fell open. Because I hadn't even, you know, like I hadn't said that there was narcissism involved, but I thought, oh my gosh, I literally just said I need to start recording our conversations because I am so confused right now.
Interesting.
With what's going on.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, I mean, with love languages, for me, my love language is words of affirmation, which I've always thought is so stupid because, like, talk about the easiest one to get manipulated on. Like,
oh yeah, that is
somebody
crazy.
Could be like, "You're so pretty," and I'm like, "Tell me more." Like, okay, you know, like, really, guys who can tell me the right thing, I will melt like butter. And Ron was very crap. I just said his name. We'll have to bleep that out.
Oh, no!
My ex. Oopsie. My ex was so expressive and he was very emotional, and so he would always like want to connect emotionally and talk about things and talk about us and how he felt about me. And like, what, I mean, that was great. That was like crack for me because I was just like, yeah, like, tell me everything, like all the thoughts you have about me that are sweet, you know, all this stuff. And I realized over time, especially through that relationship, that I was like, you know what? Their sweet words do not mean anything if it can't be backed up with action. No. And he would say how much he loved me and how he wanted to progress with me and like create this life with me. But then his actions, he was pulling me down, you know? And it was like, oh, it was such a moment of me being like, okay, so let them say all the pretty words for you, but if you don't see the action afterwards, then you know it's just flattery. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And that has like, I mean, it seems like such a simple concept, and like, yeah, I knew it in the idea, but like the action of it in relationships, I had been in relationships that I should not have ever been because they would tell me what I needed to hear.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
And I would just stay.
Yeah, they're Willoughbys and Wickhams, you know. They're the W's.
Ugh. They're the worst. But yeah, from that I really learned how to stand up for myself and how to ask for what, like ask somebody to treat me how I needed to be treated.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's the thing. Like I've learned, like my life lesson is love is a choice. Like love is a choice. Yes. You know, I fully believe if you put the work in, if you know, you're devoted to, you know, being, and you choose to be in love with somebody, you can make it happen.
Oh, amen. 100%.
You know, and if you choose each other, you got to choose each other. And that's actively, I mean, continually to actively date all the time, even if you've been together for like forever, you know, continually to actively date, continually to make things exciting, like, you know, go sneak off in the office and like, you know what I mean? Like continually to doing that. But I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, love is totally a choice. Like it is. Yeah.
And that includes like every type of love, like between friends, love of self, love of God, love of career, like
yeah,
it's a choice for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even as simple as like, oh, you know, like if I met a friend or whatever and we like, you know, both didn't vibe well, you know, but if we were like, we were like, you know what, like, we need to be friends. And then you just choose to do that, and you actively like make decisions to help that, you know, it's fully, for sure. It's not all of this like googly eyed crap, but
no, I think that's actually a really big disservice if we're looking for that, and that's like what we're actively trying to create, because I think that's a fairy tale, and it's not sustainable over all of the different phases in life we're going to go through, you know.
I love the movie The Notebook, like I love it, but at the same time I'm like, that relationship is real toxic, but that's okay. a lot of rom-com relationships are actually very toxic. I know, but I mean, but the thing is though with that is they did choose to love each other. It just was that other things were interfering with them being together, and then that way, and then whenever they found out, they were like, crap, and then they still chose each other. So I guess in a way, I don't know, is it toxic? I don't know. I mean, theirs isn't as bad as some other ones. That's true. But the other thing, now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, wait, maybe it's not, because when they met, I mean, he chose her, and she was like, not too sure. And then she chose him. So it's like, you know. That's true. Yeah. It is a cute movie. I like it. I love it. I love the drama. I love it. I love the rain, and, you know. And like the Ryan Gosling and all of it. I know. I love that. Yum. And especially the deleted scenes. Oh yeah, there's some good ones. Oh, I miss watching deleted scenes on all of the DVDs. Girl, that was fun. After the rain scene is like extended. Whoa, you know. Okay then. Know what I'm watching tonight. Just kidding. Yeah, that's I just really like I think another thing why I like that movie is I love the style of clothes. Ugh. Like Rachel McAdams just looks like fantastic. She's flawless. She's such a good actress. I adore her. Like, have you seen her reading for her audition for Ally? On YouTube. Oh my gosh. Yeah, look it up. It's incredible. She's so good. Like, so raw. Rachel McAdams, you know how she was in Mean Girls? Mm-hmm. So they originally were going to have Lindsay Lohan play Regina. She was going to be the mean girl. But when they were doing auditions and bringing people in, the director said that Rachel McAdams was the only woman he saw that made Lindsay like kind of nervous. And he's like, we're going to switch this. She's going to be Regina and Lindsay's going to be the main character. Perfect. That makes funny. Sense. Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, Rachel is, she's fantastic. Yeah, I love watching her stuff. Like, Time Traveler's Wife is good. Except, I will say, I prefer, the book is, obviously, it's usually, the majority of the time, better. And so, have you read Time Traveler's Wife? I haven't. Was she in that one and the one that's about time? Yeah, she's in both. Wow. I love About Time. She's a great movie. A little time traveling goddess, isn't she? She is. Time Traveler's Wife, girl, you got to read that book. Oh my God. Yeah. Like, if we start a book club with our listeners, like, that will have to be one. It's so good. I'll read it again. I loved it. I love time travel, and I just was so like, you know, because it's like she meets this guy, and you know, and then he like is I don't know, I don't know what they call it, but basically he is a time traveler, but like it's not his choice. Like, he gets forced to. So that's awful. He meets her through different, like, sometimes she'll know him and sometimes he won't know her because of the different, it's crazy. Oh, that's confusing. But it makes sense, like, yeah, because one of the first parts of the book, and I think the movie too, is she sees him and she's like, oh my gosh, hi. Like, we know each other, like, you know, and it's cool. Oh, I want to read it now. Okay. Done. I'll do it. Book. Yeah, like, let us know, you guys, if you guys want to start a book club, because totally should. Like, yeah, we both are obsessed with reading. So if there's others out there that are into it, I will say I'm really bad at book clubs because I always procrastinate stuff. But I will totally do a book club for this. I know. Well, I sometimes am too, but I think maybe if we start with books that we've already read, like Jane Austen. Yes. I mean, you haven't read Northanger Abbey, but Northanger Abbey's the shortest one, so. Oh, I can handle that. Okay. Have you read all of hers? Mm-hmm. Okay. I haven't read Sanditon. No, I haven't read that either. So does that, yeah. So we should read that too. We could, yeah, I did a Jane Austen book club and we kind of based it off of the movie Jane Austen book club. And so we could do that again. Like did in the order they did in. I love that movie. So good.
So good. So good.
It is.
Do we have any other life lessons to go over?
I don't think so. I mean, basically mine is just like, don't set these expectations on yourself that are, you know,
that aren't going to serve you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's such a good one. And mine is know how to take care of yourself and know what to turn over to God.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And just, you know, all of that. Yeah. Crazy.
We'll do more life lessons. I know we both have a lot more to talk about that creative value, but we wanted to do kind of a deeper one and talk about some important things and see what came of it and go from there. Basically, this is all just an experiment of let's try something and see where it goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. So are we like around the time?
We are. We're actually just like perfectly on time. So follow us, Instagram, Facebook, Tea with Claudia and B. And then we also have a Gmail that you can send us emails or contact us that way with any suggestions on episodes you'd like to see us cover or anything like that. And that's teawithclaudia&b@gmail.com.
Yes.
And
we have our two little silhouettes up there.
Yes, you'll see us. So please like and subscribe. That would be super helpful for us. Leave a comment, and we'll see you next week, you guys.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about, like, for the people on YouTube, and then I can describe it for people listening. I have, like, a shirt. It's like, I don't know if you've heard of, like, lithographs or whatever. But it's Emma. It's the book of Emma on my shirt, and there's a silhouette.
I love Emma so much. That's way cute. Too.
So fun.
Good choice. You dressed perfect for the occasion.
I did. I was like, we're recording today. I'm gonna wear it. So
yeah.
Anyway.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. We will catch you next week, Fridays at noon Pacific time.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.